Very good. Excellent. Well, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining me for a weekly session. I definitely know the names that are already here, so thank you, guys, for uh, um jumping in. Before we get started, a couple of important announcements. Today's topic is going to be with a serious check of reality. Um, so hopefully I'll be able to shed some light on this topic of property management. Before we talk about property management, we do this session on a weekly basis or almost a weekly basis. So first of all, let me start by saying Happy New Year. This is the first session of the year. We took a little break for the past 2 weeks, two Fridays, just because of the holidays. And we didn't do sessions, the past two sessions. So if you thought you missed one, then actually you didn't. For those of you who are here for the first time, and for anyone who's here maybe not the first time, I just want to remind you that we record this session in multi channels. It's going to be available both here on our YouTube channel and also on our podcast. So everything is being recorded and being uploaded. Podcast here, so you can consume it, this one or future ones as well. However you see fit, whatever comfortable for you, it's all available for you to consume it. So that's something to keep in mind for altogether for this or other sessions. I also want to mention that for those of you who speak Hebrew, I have a podcast in Hebrew that I talk about real estate investing topics, related items, etc. A lot of it is geared towards investors who do not live in the US, but not only. So it's in Hebrew. It's a little bit with a touch of foreigners, non-US based investor. But if you're interested, just look up real estate investments in Hebrew in any search engine for podcasts, and we should probably be popping up. Usually we come up pretty high there search results, even on Google for that topic. Lastly, and last announcement before we get started is that I'm going to be in the Bay Area, in the San Francisco Bay Area, giving 2 lectures, maybe even 3. Actually, as of this morning, I was invited to do a third one on February 5th and February 6th. If you want to join those sessions, you are most welcome. One of the sessions is in English. I believe that's the Wednesday, February 5th. And the second one, I hope I'm not mistaken, is in Hebrew on Thursday, the 6th. You are most welcome. They're going to be in Sunnyvale, and you need to register. Once you register, we will notify you where the event is. This is actually kind of 2 type of events combined into one. What I like to do with my lectures is before we start the topic of real estate investing, primarily I'm going to talk about real estate investing and out of state. I'm going to be holding a pre-lecture session, which I call it the power session. The power session is actually about 45 minutes of an opportunity for us to have an open discussion. I found that a lot of investors don't have that room or that place they can actually come in and either contribute or ask questions that are not necessarily related to the topic being discussed tonight. Usually events are, here is a topic and we're going to talk about this topic, which this is what I'm going to do at the second part of the evening. But those of you who want to kind of have an opportunity to be in the room with like-minded people, with other people, you want to bring your own topic that it's not necessarily related to the lecture directly, but obviously they're related to real estate investing, you are most welcome. So we start at 6:15 with a power session, and then at 7 or 7-ish, we start with the main lecture. So if you cannot make it to the power session, that's quite all right. That's not a problem. Just come on and join us at around 7 for the main lecture. And if you want to, if you want to do that, my style, those of you who watched or heard me speak, I am more of a teaching, training kind of a person. I take questions while I speak, make it a conversation. I try to make it informative and educational and not sales speech. So you are most welcome to join the power session and the main evening and the main lecture, or just the main lecture, of course. I've put a link here. It says Sunnyvale, February 2020. You need to register in order to receive the information. So please go ahead and register. You're most welcome to forward this information to your friends who keep asking you about real estate investing, who keep want to know about how to go about investing and how to go about investing out of state. You are most welcome to share it with them. I would appreciate that for my benefits, for their benefits. And I will see you in the Sunnyvale on the 5th and the 6th. If someone here is actually from the East Bay, we may have another event coming on Tuesday, the 4th, in the East Bay. This is actually something that's been offered, or I've been invited as of this morning. So it's not finalized yet. I'm just giving you the heads up. It's kind of fresh news right off the press, so to speak. Perfect. Let's talk about property managers. So tonight, the session now is about property management. I want to give some kind of clarification or some kind of calibrate expectations when it comes to property management and working with property management. Now, some of you may have noticed, and by the way, if you have any questions related to the topic or questions or comments related to real estate investing, you are most welcome to post them as a comment. I'll try to address them either as I progress through the session or at the end. I already see one. Let's see, will be interesting. Just about to sign an NA agreement for that. Okay, sounds good. Lior, I'm not sure we're going to go into fine details. We're going to be staying at the bigger scheme of things. So a couple of things regarding property management. So first of all, let me tell you this. Up until now, up until maybe a year ago or a year and a half ago, I have never seen anyone come up and say we have to reinvent how property management practices are being handled or done, right? The only person that I know is actually doing it is a friend of mine who started a company. He's actually completely tackling this aspect of property management. Unfortunately, at the moment, he's still in only few areas, but I know he's growing. So maybe there's a new wave, a new smell, something is happening. Hopefully, the day he called me and told me what he's doing, I wanted to choke him because this is actually touching all the pain points I've been feeling and suffering over the years. But I'm going to put that guy and my friend, who's a great guy, aside just for the moment because he is still at the earlier stage, of the whole process. He's already active with many properties, but he's not in most parts of the country. So I'm going to talk about the traditional way. And I'm going to help you hopefully kind of have a better expectations or calibrate your expectations on property management altogether. So first of all, let's start with the most basic notion of property managers. When someone thinks about property managers, usually the first thing that comes into mind, everybody is a crook. Well, I got to tell you, my experience has been, and my experience is only, it's only been lasting for 18 years and more than 4,500 transactions. All, I would say almost all or most are involving, by far most involving property management. So my tiny experience have taught me that good, reliable, trustworthy property managers do exist. Okay, so right there, if you're coming to this and say all property managers are crooks, my answer to you is good luck. Maybe you should not consider investing in real estate. But if you understand that, yes, like any profession, there are people who are good, people who are mediocre, and there are people who are poor, poor performance, you will understand that you can actually succeed. The problems, with property management, there's several problems that inherently come with the property management altogether. Number one, by far, they're people. Okay, there are people, and people make mistakes, and people, even when they make decisions on our behalf, they result not always in the best or ideal outcome for the owner, even if the intentions were good. There are people who lack communication skills or have communication. Property managers have to abide by the state law, and they cannot operate as individual owners. Meaning, if you own a property by yourself and you manage it by yourself, you have much more leeway what you can or cannot do and can get away with things, not always, right? Versus a property management. Property manager, technically, and if they do that, that's what they should, they have to treat every one of their tenants equally, okay? So that means they cannot give one, a certain treatment. I'm not talking about special treatment. I'm just saying one type of treatment or process, and another one, a different one, because they have their license with the state. And as you may know, real estate laws are primarily related to fair housing and discrimination, etc. And everybody's very sensitive about this. So no property manager, to begin with, a lot of people expect property managers to behave or to act or to perform the same way they would do as if they were, managing the property. So first of all, if you're the owner who thinks, oh, the property manager is me when I'm not there, let me break it down to you. Ain't gonna happen. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen because we all have different values. Not gonna happen because they have to be, the property manager is operating in a more strict environment than you. And not gonna happen because the property manager has multiple properties and they have to create systems and processes and checklists in place to make sure they are addressing not a specific situation, but an organization with employees, organization with tenants, organizations with houses, right? So even, let me give you an example. And by the way, maybe I should say property managers traditionally are always located between the rock and the hard place. Let me give you an example. If you are happy with a property manager, and let's say you've used that property manager for 4 years, and everything was fine within reason, right? Let's just say things are worked well, communication and rent and vacancies and even repairs, and there was no problem. The first time the property manager has a little bit more of a challenging problem, it's maybe not even related to the management, but it has to do with the house or with the tenant. And they, for some reason, either the property manager didn't communicate it properly or fast enough, or didn't do it to your full satisfaction. The minute that happens, the first time, that property manager is a piece of what, right? Piece of crap, right? And that's not true, but in our mind, that's where we result. So the guy that was 5 minutes earlier just awesome and great and okay, now is horrible, right? Because there's something beyond his immediate control. Because remember, the property managers always deal with, not always, but a lot of the time is either with an upset tenant or a piece tenant or a house that is complaining about some repair, or the owner is complaining about something. So, now, I'm not saying it's all the time like this, but that's in their life, in their day-to-day routine. There's always some fire to put down. There's always something to address. There's always someone unhappy. It's so much comes with the territory. It's almost impossible. It's impossible to please everybody all the time for a long period of time. Okay, so right there, if you are in that position and you're coming into this and you say, "Oh, my property manager is me when I'm not there," your basic assumptions is way, 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 way off. I'm not saying don't have that mindset. Don't have that mindset. In mind, but you're not well calibrated. Your expectations are off, and guess what? You're going to be disappointed multiple times. It's just going to happen. Let me give you a story. Years back, more than 10 years ago, I had an investor who bought multiple houses. I think he bought very quickly before the crash, 12 or 13 houses. I remember his name clearly. I remember where he was from San Jose. I remember he's talking about talking about where he worked, and he kept complaining all the time. Every little thing that happened with the management, he was complaining. He was complaining about the communication and about the repair and about the vacancy. It was crazy. The guy was just nonstop complaining, and every little thing was a catastrophe. And it was just so hard to work with this person, not realizing there are things beyond the property manager or our control. There are things that happen, and you know what? Things are being addressed, but he was still off the charts in terms of how we responded. And then one day he disappears and quiet. All of a sudden, this guy just we don't hear from him anymore. No more complaints, right? Hey, no complaints here for this guy not complaining, right? Now, I haven't heard from him for a few years, and then a few years ago, I'm giving a lecture in San Diego. Not, the guy's from San Jose, but I'm in San Diego, and he's walking through the door, and I recognize him, and he comes up to me and says, "Do you remember me?" I say, "Of course, I remember you. I remember your name. I remember how many properties you have. I do, and I even remember you disappeared for a while. Where were you? How are you?" And you know what? He's a nice guy. He was never like a mean or like a bad person. He was a really nice guy, but it's always been like screaming of every little thing. And I told him, "Where did you disappear? I haven't seen you for such a long time." And he goes, "Well, I got to tell you something. First of all, I'm here on vacation, and for some reason I got your email or I saw you're speaking, so I thought it would be an interesting coincidence to see you. So I thought it would be nice. But I got to tell you something, Danny. I don't know if you remember, but when I was starting in the first 2-3 years with all those properties, I was going through hell. I mean, every little thing was a mega drama. Every little thing, right? And he says, "I don't know if you remember." I say, I do remember. I remember well. He says, "One day, for some reason, I thought about it, and I realized that I have to kind of take things in a little bit more in perspective, or put in proper proportions. And not everything that happens is a major drama. And the day I internalized it with myself was the day that I got more relaxed, more calm, more accepting." And he says, "I'm not in love with the fact that those issues come up, but I understand it's part of being an investor, part of being an owner. And that's something that comes up and will come up. And now I'm willing to not love it, but accept it as part of the package because I see the greater good, the greater benefit." And the day I realized and I internalized that was actually a very good day for me because I kind of stopped stressing out over every little thing. And it actually gave me a little bit of a breather, and it gave me a little bit more of a perspective in life about investment. And that's where I actually stopped calling you because I didn't see a reason to call you over every little thing. So that was an eye-opening for him. I fully understand what he's talking about. We in real estate have to understand that even when we pick right crews and right teams and right vendors, that is not a guarantee for success, but it's definitely, should increase the chances of that will happen. But we're still dealing with people, and people behave in a peopleish way. And this is something we need to understand when it comes to especially property managers, right? So property managers, if we come and we expect them and we put them on a pedestal or expect them to outperform all the time, that's not going to happen. We're going to be disappointed left and right. Now, and remember, there's always something. The house, the tenant. There's always something, going on. Now, if you understand that and you're willing to accept it, it will make your life easier, right? If you're not willing to accept it, you either should not be in this game or you should be expecting a horrible stress ongoingly, and that will not be beneficial for you. Now, let me give you another example that I hear quite a lot from investors, especially when it comes to repairs. See, when property manager has a repair, he's going to get maybe one quote or more if it's a major task. And many times what I see is that investors are looking at the cost of the repairs, and they're kind of freaking out and say, how much is it? They're charging me so much to replace a light bulb, and they're charging me so much for this repair, and this should be costing like this. And you know what? Probably you're right. If you were to do it yourself, or if you were to go and hire some guy off of Craigslist without insurance and or license to do the job, you will be able to do it for less. There's no doubt. But the property managers cannot adhere to that guidelines or to that standard, because if they hire the wrong person for the job, guess what? If something happens, who's going to hold them? Who's going to be accountable, right? The person that will be held accountable is the property manager, because the minute things don't go according to the plan with a repair, you're going to blame the property manager for hiring the wrong person. And the property manager doesn't want to be in that position at any point of time. So they're always going to hire the people that they know, that they trust, that carry the professionalism, people they can call up and say, hey, I need you to fix something, that you come back and correct something that you repair. It's a matter of relationship. It's also a matter of integrity. It's not always the case, but that's something that they're trying to accomplish. And they're, even in the long term, protecting your best interest, maybe even from your own self. So this is something you need to kind of keep in mind, why sometimes things can be done for less, or could be done with a lower cost, especially if you're going to do it by yourself. So if you're going to compare something that you're going to go to Home Depot, buy the material and fix it, it's going to be cheaper. That's not how a property management company operates. They have costs. There are vendors or employees or handymans or technicians, they call it, that they employ. There's a cost for it. Even if they go and replace a light bulb, I know it sounds ridiculous, but they have to say, listen, I have to replace 10 light bulbs. It takes me 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It's still a cost that I have to carry somehow. So it's not, going anywhere. So that's something you got to understand and got to accept. You don't have to love it. You're not going to love it, but you have to accept. Now, the other thing that I'm hearing from investors, and that's a big, big concerns for many, is like they're saying, listen, I own one or maybe two or even three rental properties with one property management company that owns 200, 300, 500 properties. Even if I own three, not to mention one, I'm a tiny investor. Why would they care about me? And I am nothing, I have no clout, no leverage with them. And the simple answer is, yeah, if they're good people, that wouldn't matter. If they're, but I can't say that it's not, it's untrue. There's some truth to it. I believe that there is. One of the things we start doing years back is we understand, and simply do it, that property managers are a critical factor in the systems and processes and the success of the investment. And we take a lot of time in vetting them, making sure we lined up the right people for the job, with the experience, with the systems and processes and fees and everything. And when I talk to property managers, it's not like a conversation, it's more like an interrogation. I dive in and I check so many things about them before we start working with them. And that's something I try to do in every vendor, or at least the critical vendors that we work with throughout everywhere. And that's something that we do. I have gained a lot of knowledge of information and experience from mistakes. I have seen what works, what doesn't work. So when I go on the phone or for a conversation, an interrogation, you should say, with a property manager, I dive into the details. I don't think a lot of people have that knowledge to interrogate properly a property manager. They don't know it's an interrogation, of course, or the experience. I spend an hour to an hour and a half easily on a single conversation with multiple property managers before I pick the one that I think is the best one. So we take the time. We take the time to check them well, to make sure we're lining up good people, right? And even I have, throughout my career, there was only once in 16 years that I've been doing this, there's only once that I had to fire a property management company, and not because they were bad people or cheaters or did anything fraudulent or anything. Not at all. They were actually really nice people, very good people. The partners were two amazing, sharp guys, very impressive. And we actually got it to be very good friends. But there was a big gap in performance between what they say and what they do. And there was a big gap between their, there was a lot of problem with their performance, and houses were neglected, and bookkeeping was, not done properly. And as much as I tried to work with them to correct it, it was not corrected, and I had to freeze them and discontinue working with them. And they told me that day, this is a very bad day for us, a very sad day for us, because we just lost our biggest account, Simply Do It, for a company. Our biggest growth engine was Simply Do It, and we just lost that. So we're going to try and correct that. But that happened once. And again, it didn't happen because they did anything wrong professionally. It was just, poor performance. So what can you do in order to mitigate that? Well, if you own one or two or few properties, well, the more properties you own with a certain property manager, it will give you some more clout or leverage, no doubt. If you don't, then probably your best way to go about it is work with a network like Simply Do It. Because we take take the time to vet the property managers, but more importantly, we become their biggest account very quickly. So that means when you work with us and you work with a single property manager, with a property manager, and you own a single property with that property manager, you automatically belong to the biggest account they have, Simply Do It, and you are, automatically inheriting, because you came through us, the VIP status. The VIP status means, A, you're going to get better rates. And by the way, I'm not talking about drastically discounts, but just, few nice discounts. Then you're going to get a better treatment because we ask them to do more for our clients than they typically do. So you're going to benefit from additional services and checks and balances that they don't offer other investors, or they offer them for a fee. You're either going to get them for a discount or even for free. Okay, so we have more. But most importantly, when there's going to be an issue, and remember, it's not if there's going to be an issue, there's going to be an issue. There's going to be in the future, near future, far future, some miscommunication, some misunderstanding, some gap of, something. It's going to happen. You can count on it. If you think it's not going to happen, you are unrealistic, right? It doesn't mean a catastrophe. It means something. Can be something small, it can be something big. The minute you call them, they know you are connected to their biggest account, and they're going to treat you accordingly. And they know that if something happens if they're unable or not able to solve the situation properly, they know your next call is going to be to us. And then the next call is going to be from me, which I do every week. And I call and I help resolve situations and help, resolve, solve problems. And I'm not, I'm not gonna say that I'm solving every single problem, but for me, it's rather easy when I call a property manager and tell that property manager, hey, I want you to do this. I'm asking you to do that in order to mitigate, in order to give it some more attention, in order to help. We can't solve everything. Even the property manager, cannot solve everything, but at least we try, we bring it more attention. And they are highly committed to our investors because you become a part of their biggest, account. And that definitely helps. So you can definitely do it by yourself. And if you do that, I suggest you spend a good amount of time, vetting property managers. If you are the type of person that is mostly attracted to the cheap fees, then your biggest risk is yourself. But if you understand that the fees is part of a system, and most importantly, is what are the checks and balances and system and processes and experience a property manager has. If you understand that, you're probably going to be in better shape, in better hands. I can tell you that a few years back, I was interviewing a potential new property management company somewhere in Texas. I went on the phone. I do multiple phone calls with multiple property management companies before I kind of slowly filter them out. One of those companies, I went, we started the conversation. 10 minutes into the conversation, I know all too well, this is not going to work. This is horrible practices, horrible processes, minimal experience. This is a catastrophe. But I stayed for 10 more minutes for politeness, and I concluded the conversation and says, X, not going to happen. And I keep track of every property management that I speak, what are their answers, what did they say, and then I put my own comments, and then I say, okay, if this is off my list, and then I write, here's why. So I have a lot of property management companies that I've spoken with over the years that I kind of crossed over. Not all of them. Some of them, for some reason or another, I went with another company. But definitely had a bunch that was like, stay away. I felt bad for their clients to begin with. So this is something that very important to know how to do. It took me years to learn how to do it. Only by mistakes and see what works in one area and doesn't work, or doesn't work in another area. I learn. I see what works in certain, when I work with one property management company, and then I say, hey, I go to the other guy and say, hey, here's what we did in another area. It worked really well. Let's try it in your area as well and see if it's going to work. Not all property managers are always open to make changes. That's a human nature, but I think it's easier for them to give it a thought or try something when it's coming from their biggest, client. The last thing I want to mention regarding mindset and how to treat or address your property manager that can help you. We tend to see as human beings where the vendor, the property manager is failing and what the mistakes they're making. What I've learned to do many years ago is instead of waiting for my property manager to fail at their job, I'm going to try and help them succeed. I'm going to try to be one step ahead of them if I can and where I can, like follow-up email or reminder email they need to do something, or kind of not, the tone is like, why did you screw up, on this item? And the tone is more, listen, next week, remember there is some inspection that should be done. I just want to make sure you're doing it, you're taking care of it. Those are the type of things I'm trying to help them succeed at their job and show them, the positive reinforcement and not the other way around. Not everybody's taking that approach. I think it's hurting the owner when you don't take that approach. And I want to mention one other thing. When you work with a property manager, the ultimate responsibility for the property is yours. It all serves your best interest. The property is yours. The property is not the vendors. The property is not the property manager. You need to, make sure you understand that and operate under that, mindset, and not, I'm using a property manager, I can kick back and relax. You can. It's probably not going to serve you properly. It's probably not going to be in your best interest, but it's something you can definitely do. I suggest not to take that approach. That doesn't mean you need to micromanage them, but that means you have to be attentive, pay attention, kind of let them know you're paying attention as well. That's going to help you very much. With that said, that's pretty much what I wanted to cover regarding property managers. If I sum it up, if I summarize it, remember, they're human, they make mistakes. Not all of them are crooks, and they're, and it's probably, if you understand that they are always between the rock and the hard place, it will help you, calibrate your expectations and mindset to work with them in the proper, correct way, right? Remember, think about them constantly being somewhere in the mindset of putting out fires, right? If it's not your house, it's someone else's house. If it's not someone else's house, it's another house. It's always a challenge. The day-to-day, there's always something going on. Sometimes they have to deal with the owners too, because not always the owners are responsive or as they should. So keep that in mind, and also try to try to make sure you try to make great decisions or choices when you choose the property managers that you're working with. I would suggest ignore the fee. The fee is the least significant item on the list. Everything else is much more important before the fee. The fee is important, but it's part of the of the decision. Sometimes people think that if one property manager is charging 9% and another one is charging 8% or 7%, it's a 2% discount. If you actually translate into real money, that can be across a year anywhere from few tens of thousands of to few tens dollars, a couple of dozens of dollars to maybe 100 or two, depending where you're buying and how much you're rating. It doesn't necessarily have to translate to a huge amount of money, and see what you're losing for. Let's say the difference is $150 a year, right? Or the type of properties we do out of state. $150 is the difference. Is it worth to give up, to pay this $150 more for what you're getting, or not pay it and get someone else? Now, if you find someone who's amazing at 4%, which is unheard of in most of the country, that's amazing. But usually that's not the case. And usually the one who makes 4, 5, or 6% as a management fee, something is not making money. He's probably not making money unless he's a huge operation and super efficient, which is a rare occasion. Very good. Let's see if you have any questions coming up. You can pause them. While we're waiting for questions, I want to mention the following. We have, just as a reminder, I'll be coming to the San Francisco Bay Area to speak on February 5th and 6th in Sunnyvale. One lecture is going to be in English. The second one is going to be in Hebrew. You are most welcome to sign up to either one and join us. It's going to be a power session first, and then content, a full lecture, educational lecture second. So you are more than welcome to join, to register. The link to the event is posted at the top or one of the first comments. For some reason, I'm having a hard time posting another comment. All of a sudden, Facebook is acting out a little bit. Hopefully, I'm going to try and see if you can hear me, and let's see if we can do something about it. Okay, so Facebook is frozen on me. At least I hope it's still recording. I'm not even sure. So if questions are coming in, I may not be able to see them. Let's see if we can try and see it on another platform. All right. Guess Facebook is being unfriendly. Let's try one more thing here. I can see something is going on with Facebook. Okay. Maybe something happened. I apologize. Those things happen, obviously. Well, you guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I don't know what's going on with Facebook, just being not very friendly today or slow to respond. If for some reason you posted a question and I can't see it, you can send it to me, or I'll pick it up in the comments, or you can email it directly to me on Facebook, or however you find whatever works for you. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for listening, for participating, and I wish you all the great weekend. and great 2020. And I hope to see you in person in the Bay Area, in the San Francisco Bay Area, during the first week of February 5th and February 6th, Wednesday and Thursday. And I may have another event coming up in the East Bay on February 4th. That's actually something that came up just this morning. Thank you very much. Have a terrific rest of your day. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Bye-bye.